and welcome to Pet Star, a Doc of Detox show. I'm Abby Michelle, and here with me is the always amazing and always beautiful Dr. Marlene Siegel. How are you doing today, Dr. Siegel?
Amazing. Thank you. What a nice introduction.
Oh, just speaking
It's
the
a girl
truth.
show now.
Right? Exactly. Before we're prepping, we're like, are we good? Are my eyes okay? Are my lips good? I love
And
it.
you just came from Florida, so you're nice
Yes.
and tanned and refreshed, and you worked really hard, but
Yes.
got some of that Florida vitamin D.
I know, it just does wonders. Otherwise, I'd look a little drab, I'm sure, because I'm a little jet lagged, but we're here. We're here to teach everybody, and it's going to be a wonderful show. And I was lucky enough to be in your state for pretty much 2 weeks. And it's so beautiful there. You're so lucky and fortunate to be there permanently. I would love to be there more often. The
Oh,
weather's
absolutely.
amazing.
Amazing weather and green, lots of
Yes,
green.
so beautiful, so much life. Yeah. So before we get started, I have some announcements for all you beautiful viewers out there. The Calcium Connection Part 4 will be airing on November 16th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you don't want to miss the last part of this series. This amazing calcium supplement is ionic calcium and is the first and only calcium product on the planet that is beneficial for the human body. All other calcium supplements can actually cause the very problem that they say it is helping. So definitely check that out. And you can always watch part 1, 2, and 3. You can find those on YouTube or our Facebook channel. So definitely tune in. And that again is 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's Friday. So Dr. Wolf is currently in St. Petersburg, Florida still, where he is wrapping up the Whole Life Coach certification. I just got back last night, as I was saying, from Florida, and I had the most amazing time with everybody. Being a part of the ITIOH team is the most amazing experience. Our techniques that we teach are out of this world. I speak from experience with how it's transformed my body and health, and how we have helped so many patients worldwide, and I'm so excited for what's to come. So on that note, we are going to be in Adelaide, Australia, February 1st to the 12th for Wolf Deep Tissue and Wolf Non-Surgical certifications. And then we will be in Kelowna, BC, here in Canada, from February 24th to March 2nd for our combined certification. And then we're also going to be back in St. Petersburg, Florida, June 9th to the 27th for our combined certification. And for those of you who are not sure what is included in our combined certification course, it is our Whole Life Coach, Wolf Deep Tissue, and Wolf Non-Surgical certifications. And then you also get the Braveheart for free. So we would love to have you there. If you're in any of those areas, definitely come check us out, and we would be more than honored to have you join our team of New World practitioners. And in June, I can't wait to meet you, Dr. Siegel. It's unfortunate that we didn't get a chance to connect while we were there, but it was just so busy.
We'll make it happen next time, I promise.
Definitely. So on today's episode, we are going to be talking about pet nutrigenomics. Our phone lines are open for all of your questions, so you can call in at 1-888-570-9445. So let's get started.
Awesome. Well, we've had a lot of discussions on food, and we talk about what's healthy food and why we should eat healthy food. But when we really get down to it, the whole science of nutrigenomics means that we're looking at how food actually affects our DNA. And that's a subject we haven't talked about a lot.
Right.
It's fascinating to realize that what you're eating is actually changing the expression of your genes and that of our pets as well, of course. So when we're eating things that have glyphosate in them in particular, we're actually changing the RNA, which is the transcriptase that actually tells your genes how to express themselves. We may be interfering with how we're actually uptaking nutrients as well. So there's a lot of pathways that are affected when we're eating non-organic foods. And I'll just summarize it as that, because we know that in the industry right now, when you are calling something organic, it doesn't have glyphosate in it, and it doesn't have other hormones and pesticides and chemicals in it.
Right.
So we've had to up the ante a lot over the past few years and really help to emphasize to people how important it is to feed their pets grass-fed meats, and there's no compromising there. We are seeing even more cancers now than ever before. I used to say 4 to 10 a week. We are seeing on the average of 10 and more a week now.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that means I'm seeing more than 2 to 3 cancer patients a day. So
That's too
we really
many.
have to start, yeah, we have to start paying attention.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say and we need to protect in every way that's possible because these glyphosates are even in the air we're breathing now. They're putting different things in the chemtrails that are being sprayed with the nano aluminum particles and the glyphosates. So if we're able to at least protect ourselves with everything we eat, at least those levels aren't getting so out of whack with in other ways.
Absolutely. So recently, there was a study that was done by the University of Helsinki, which is in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually did a study where they took four categories of animals. They took animals that were eating raw food. They took animals that were eating processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took a group of animals that were previously eating raw, and then they started feeding them processed foods. And then they take animals that were eating processed foods and then started feeding them raw. And they looked at biomarkers of inflammation and of disease to see, did it make a difference? And conclusively, they were able to show that animals that were fed raw diets had markedly less inflammation. And we know inflammation is the underlying cause of all disease,
Yeah,
including cancer. So
definitely.
they had markedly lower levels of inflammation when they were fed raw. And not surprisingly, the highest levels were the ones that were eating processed foods.
Of course.
But what was also interesting was that the animals that were being fed processed foods and changed to raw, their inflammatory markers went down. And the animals that were being fed raw and then were transferred into processed foods, their inflammatory markers went up. So you can affect yourself and your pets by changing. It's never too late. You always want to go for the cleanest, highest quality food possible for yourself and for your pets.
Definitely. That's really interesting. So these studies that they've been doing, it's showing a major impact on the pet's health then. So um,
Tremendous.
let's talk about a little bit something that I know that's very exciting for you. You have your food that you've developed. So let's talk
Yes.
about that.
So finally, I can actually say it is done. And
Yay.
I talked to the manufacturer last night and he said, we are ready to sell online. So
Wonderful.
we're like over the top excited. We'll post the link that people can go to in your show notes. It'll be on the YouTube link.
Yes.
And we are like over the top excited. So the first diet that we've come out with is a diet that is comprised of both chicken and beef. So it's a
Okay.
combination. And I'm going to go ahead and address people's concerns right now. Oh, my dog is allergic to chicken, and oh, my dog is allergic to beef. Well, truly, they're really not allergic to those animals. They have so much inflammation in their body and they have leaky gut and they can't tolerate that anymore. Once you heal the body, you can get rid of those so-called allergies
Mm-hmm.
and they will be fine.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to make sure that we got that clear
Yeah.
for people. And so now what we did is we developed one diet that is it's a blend of meat, fat, bones, and organ meats, and we use hearts and kidneys.
Okay.
And what we did is created the healthy pet diet, which has a higher protein and a lower fat content. But then we developed a more ketogenic type of diet. And in that diet, it's for our patients that are undergoing a lot of inflammation. And the purpose of that is to have them burn fat instead of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a higher fat content diet, so we can get them burning that, which also helps to reduce inflammation and it compromises cancer because we know cancer cells grow on sugar. So if they
Right.
have no food source, they become weakened, and then we can come in with other modalities to help actually kill those cells.
Wonderful. That sounds so amazing. The pet food line that you've created, is it for dogs, cats? Is there different ranges for all different types of little fur babies?
It's for any of our carnivore fur babies.
Wonderful.
And it's interesting how we have been bamboozled
Mm-hmm.
by the food industry and by the marketing world into thinking that our puppies have to eat something different than the adult dog. And when they get old, they have to eat something different than what they ate when they were younger. And the cats have to eat something different than the dogs. But, think about it for a minute. What do animals eat in the wild? do you see any of the cat species not eating what a bear eats? Well, bears eat fish too, but what I'm saying is that they don't have a sign on the butt of the deer that says, I am cat only, or
Right.
I am dog only. Okay. Wolves and cats, they're all eating the same foods, and they feed that to their babies.
Right.
So mommies go out, they eat something, they come back to their den and they regurgitate it for their children. So this whole idea of marketing to the age is ridiculous. The reason why cats have a different food right now is because when the pet food industry started feeding cats, they did not even put meat into the diet. They were feeding them some kind of a gorgum based lookalike. So it looked like meat, but it actually didn't have any meat in it. Well, they got in trouble because these cats started dying of a heart condition called cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy is a disease that results when they lack taurine. Cats cannot manufacture taurine. They have to eat it in their diet. And what is taurine in? It's in meat. So they basically, the industry got caught with their pants down because they were feeding cats a non-meat diet.
Interesting.
So here you have an obligate carnivore and you don't have any meat in the diet. So obviously you're going to have a problem.
Right.
And that's what happened. But instead of putting meat in the diet of these cats, they turned around and they started putting in just taurine as a supplement. So the cardiomyopathy went away, but obesity went up, cancer rates went up, all these other inflammatory problems, ear infections, skin disease, teeth problems, cataracts, obesity, all of the other problems have been skyrocketing because these diets that are being produced have four major problems. Number one, when they are processed, meaning they're turned into a kibble or they're packed into a can, they no longer have any enzymes in them. And enzymes are what we use to break our food down. And you have to break down the food to its elemental unit in order to absorb it into your body and use it. So number one, they lack in enzymes. Number two, they're exceedingly high in carbohydrates. If you calculate the amount of carbohydrates in the average processed foods, they're going to be somewhere between 40 and 60% or higher. What they should be eating is on the realms of about 1%. That's an extraordinary difference.
That's so drastic.
And we wonder why we have all these fat animals, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, so, the processed part of it. So they're eating
enzymatically dead food. They have a high amount of carbohydrates. They're not getting any moisture from their diet if it's in a kibble form. And they're designed to get 70% of their water from their diet. So we have a real big problem there. And then the last point is if it's not organic, it's going to be loaded with just tremendous amount of toxins, including glyphosate and all kinds of hormones and other chemicals that are just extremely detrimental to our pets' health.
Right. Wow, that's so incredible. I had no idea that they were doing that with the cat food. Like I thought it was processed, of course, but I didn't know that it was just no meat and then they just added in that one element to counteract that. That's really interesting and something that I don't think a lot of people realize. So thank you so much for sharing that bit of information with everybody. And we do have a caller, so we can jump into this call and then get back to talking about the pet food.
Okay.
Amazing. And caller, you can ask your question when you're ready.
Hi, I'm just calling because my friend just got a cat. It's 4 weeks old and it's constipated and I don't know what we should do.
Okay.
You have a cat that is 4 weeks old and what?
It's constipated and they're not sure what to do. Yeah. So when did you get the cat?
We found it. It's just like a stray.
Okay.
And have you taken it in for any kind of veterinary care yet?
Yeah, but we haven't taken it in. We're just it's pretty healthy. It's doing well. It's just not pooing properly. So I'm just...
Okay. So that's a great question, and I'm so glad that we have this as an example. When you say he's healthy means eating and having normal bowel movements. So when you say he's not having bowel movements and he's constipated, that in my mind is a symptom that tells me something isn't right. So first of all, we don't know why he's constipated. It could be for a lot of different things, including what if he's blocked with parasites? What if he has an intestinal blockage? What if he has an obstruction, or what if he was born with an anomaly? Who knows? So you really need to take them in, and I want to encourage people to utilize your veterinarians. They may not be holistic yet. You can encourage them, but they certainly know their industry and they can make a good diagnosis. We may differ in how we treat things as an integrative doctor, but it's still very, very important to get a diagnosis. So doing self-treatment really can cause a lot more harm than good, especially when you have a situation where an animal is having a pretty severe symptom, and not having a bowel movement, we know in our industry, is a really big deal.
Yes, definitely. It just as big of a deal for it as humans as it is animals.
And you want to find out why.
Yeah, definitely, because parasites, worms, so many different factors can take play. And I know I actually spoke with the caller earlier, and I know that it was a rescue cat that was found in a dumpster, and it did have diarrhea prior to this constipation. So there could be lack of the hydration, lack of electrolytes, and things of that nature.
Yeah, too many things. You really do. I would encourage you to take him in and find out why he's not right, and then treat the condition so he can go back to thriving.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Calling.
Thanks for calling.
All right, and let's get back into it. So let's talk more about your pet food. I'm so curious to learn more about this amazing new venture you've started.
So let me tell you why I did it, because there's always a great story behind what makes people do what they do. And it wasn't because I had a lot of bonbon time that I decided to go out there and create my own dog food. It was because every time we came across a decent product in the industry, something would change, and the companies don't tell you that they're making changes, but all of a sudden the food isn't organic, or they changed the recipe and they started adding things that they shouldn't have been adding. And it was really frustrating to me as I'm promoting their product, having trust and faith that they're giving me the product that they say they're giving me, which my client expects me to, they trust me to make sure I'm providing them with what I'm saying it is.
Right.
So we used to promote a different product that was, it used to be a pretty good premium food. And I found out that they had started changing their diets. They also launched a kibble. So they were really not anymore vested into creating a super sustainable diet.
Right. Yeah, they were not in line with what your goals were.
No, the congruency changed, and they were now going after market share instead of after the quality and healthcare of our pets.
Right.
So I just, whenever you reach resistance, it's usually an indication that you're being called upon, to do something big. And I said, my Jove, I'm just going to have to go out there and just do it right.
Amazing.
And then as soon as I made the commitment that I was going to do it, the right people fell in place, and it just really happened very easily. And I was able to put the formulas together. I was able to find a company that was able to make it. So our food is not only the healthiest on the planet, but it's also the freshest, because as that product comes in, it is processed. It goes from the company that's blending it and making it. It's shipped off to get HPP'd, which is high pressure pasteurization. It's a 40-degree water bath under pressure, which kills the bad microbes, so the E. coli, salmonella, and listeria. They check the batches to make sure they're clean, and then they come back and they're frozen and packaged. So this product is incredibly fresh. And because of that, it actually has a longer shelf life when you defrost it. So it comes frozen, and then you defrost it. It comes in a 3-ounce medallion, so it looks like a little round medallion. And then it comes in an 8-ounce patty. And then we also have it in 2-pound and 5-pound chubs. So for people who have larger animals, it doesn't come in any fancy packaging. It really is just the meat. It looks like hamburger meat. And you just defrost it and you cut it up into the segments that you want. You keep it frozen. You refreeze whatever you're not going to use, but it'll actually stay fresh in the refrigerator up to 10 days.
Amazing.
I would encourage people to only defrost what you need every 48 hours because you want to maintain the freshness of the product. So that product is the meat, the fat, the organ meat, and the bones all ground together. Then we used a different company to create the vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids. And the reason I did that was because there is an organization called AFCO, and their job, they have no regulatory means, they have no legal action, but they're looked upon as the industry's leader for determining what should go into a pet food.
Okay.
On another show, because I didn't take these out, but I actually came across an article of all of the harmful chemicals that they allow, this AFCO division allows in pet food. And I was appalled, as was the author of the article.
Yeah.
So I don't want to follow a standard that allows that kind of toxicity in there. That to me is not healthy.
No.
So we separated the products. That way the owner can buy their raw meat product.
Mm-hmm.
They can buy their vitamin, mineral, and fatty acids from a different vendor. And in the privacy of your own home, we teach you how to blend that together, which is taking the powder, pouring it on the food, mashing it in, and you're done.
Perfect. That
So,
sounds so amazing.
It really is.
I love hearing all this. I know I don't have any fur babies now, but I know that I will be coming to you when I do and trusting only your products and foods and your suggestions, because I can just see how passionate and how much love you have for all of our fur critters out there. So that's just so beautiful.
Do you realize that we could literally reverse a majority of the disease that we see
Mm-hmm.
by simply changing the diet, clean water, and cleaning up the environment?
Yeah. It's so simple.
Yes.
It really
We just had a wonderful case. They just went back to California, had a family that I met, a mom and her daughter and their son. Amazing people, unbelievably dedicated to their cat who had cancer in its mouth. It was growing under the tongue and it was encompassing the whole mouth.
Oh, wow.
And they had seen the segment on The Truth About Pet Cancer.
Yeah.
They did some research and they decided that they wanted to meet me. I happened to be in California at the time. They drove over to San Diego. We met and they said, we're going to come to Florida. So they were here for 2 weeks. And during that process, he received all of the alternative therapies. Every day he was here for 4 to 5 hours a day, getting IV therapies, getting all the different things that we do that help to support his body, support the pathways that his body has to use to actually heal from this dis-ease, including nutrition. And then when the time was right, I flew with them to New York where he had cryosurgery done.
Mm-hmm.
And the tumor, we froze it. And within literally 48 hours, he was able to eat on his own again. First time he's been able to do that in months. And he recovered so incredibly fast because his body was put into a condition that enabled him to be able to heal with all the modalities that we had set him up with. It was really remarkable. And I was so honored and so blessed to be a part of that, because what they represented to me was unconditional love.
Right.
You know, we talk about it all the time. And at the end of the day, what are we here for? We're here to experience and to give and receive unconditional love. It's the theme that Dr. Wolf talks about all the time. And yet, when we are around our fellow human beings, we go, oh, I don't know about that. You know, we become very conditional.
Right. Definitely.
But where that comes back to our genes is that, as in nutrigenomics,
Mm-hmm.
where what you eat affects the gene expression, so does your thoughts. So when you have negative thoughts, you create negative neurochemicals, and those negative neurochemicals go down to that protein that's covering your DNA,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives them a signal and tells them something to do.
Right.
And so they're going to uncover genes that are going to enable you to survive in whatever environment you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in an environment where your cells think it's very hateful, angry, evil, scary, that kind of environment, well, you're going to express the genes that are adequate for that environment.
Right.
Whereas if you live in gratitude and joy and harmony and love, and you have self-acceptance and you have acceptance for others, or I should say compassion and tolerance for others, then you set off an entirely different set of neurochemicals.
Yeah.
And we know now, especially because I know Dr. Tony's on your show a lot as well, and clearly we know that we have to heal that component of self-forgiveness
Yes.
and self-love before any healing can occur. And we went through that with their family as well.
Yeah.
There had been some emotional things that had gone on with other family members, and we healed that through the cat, through the mother, and it was amazing.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story. It was very touching, and I hope that helped so many other viewers out there if they're going through anything in a similar situation. And a big thing too is that the foods that your pets are taking in or that we're taking in, those are altering their DNA to produce those negative hormones, those negative emotions, and you're going to continue to make those wrong choices if we're taking in those negative frequencies. So the more that we can alter our frequency to be in taking positive things, feeding positive things to our pets, it's going to make our moods and our emotions positive, and we're able to express the self-love, self-forgiveness, and everything else that comes along with healing. And we do have another caller, so on that note, we'll get to them. You can ask your question when you're ready.
Hi. I love listening to the show, by the way. It's a great show. And I'm really enjoying the conversation about pet food. And so when I saw the topic of the discussion that was going to be tonight, I went out to the internet and I just looked up the words, and of course Pet MD came up, and I started going down this rabbit hole reading what they were saying about how you can fix an obese pet by feeding them this Dr. Hill's or some kind of Hill's diet, or it's a metabolic diet for your pet. And I'm reading that, and then I go down further, and it says, is your pet eating these certain vegetables? And I'm listening to you talk, and I am not hearing anything about vegetables. Like, I'm not hearing you say that my pet should be eating any vegetables. And then if I can ask that question, you can answer it. I'd like to ask one more.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, that was a fantastic question, and thank you for bringing it up. So I mentioned that we have the pet fuel product. And in the pet fuel product, we have vegetables. No legumes are in there because we know legumes are very inflammatory. They have lectins in them. So let's ask the question, where did the carnivores get their vegetables in the wild? And what happened is they would eat the intestines of the animal that they killed. But the animal that they killed had already pre-digested all the greens and they were herbivores. So they digested all those grasses and foods that they were eating, so that by the time that the carnivore went to eat that animal, they had this beautiful green effluent that we call intestinal ingesta. And that's how they got not only their vegetables, but that's also how they got their probiotics, because they would, of course, get the bacteria that was living in that animal's gut. So it was like a self-inoculation. Okay. So it's not that vegetables are bad for our animals. They just weren't typically designed to be the primary eater, but they did get them through the intestinal tract of the other animal. So we address that part with the pet fuel. And remember, I said that we have our meat portion separate from the vitamin mineral portion, and also that has the vegetables in it, because we didn't want to have to go through the AFCO standards. We also know that the foods that we're eating right now are nutrient depleted. So that if the animal that you're eating was eating on pasture land that was deficient in nutrients because it wasn't farmed in a sustainable way, then when you're eating that animal, or you're eating the plant if it grew on a non-sustainable environment, then you're not going to get those nutrients. So number one, it's really, really important that we make sure that we're supplementing the vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids in our pets' diets. And that's why we did this. We do a bioenergetic scan process. And when we do that, we find that literally over 90% of the animals that we're scanning are deficient in vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids in a physical manner. So it's really, really important that we get that in. The second part of that answer is that we may have those nutrients in our diet, but if we have high levels of glyphosate, then we may have blocked the shikimate pathway and other pathways that are not allowing us to actually absorb these nutrients. So if we're seeing deficiencies, it's either because it's not in the diet or because they can't absorb it. Did that answer the question? So yes, they do get vegetables. We don't want to use grain-free diets, which are full of the legumes, the chickpeas and the peas and the beans and all that, because we know those are very, very inflammatory. In fact, I think we mentioned that on another show, that we're seeing dogs right now with an epidemic of cardiomyopathy. dogs are supposed to be able to synthesize taurine in their body. They use different amino acids and they make it. But we're finding that all of a sudden they're not able to make it. And so there's no answer yet as to why, but it either is because the pathway to synthesize that taurine has been blocked, probably by things like glyphosate, or because something has changed metabolically and they can't even absorb what they're trying to produce.
Right. Could also be with heavy metals. Can that play a role with pets too, blocking the receptor sites for certain things?
Well, we don't know yet, but I'm actually just started doing a heavy metal study with Dr. Chris Shade from Quicksilver Scientific. Wonderful. So we started today.
Oh, wow, perfect. I'm glad I brought that up.
We're doing a 3-part study looking at the role that heavy metals are playing in our pets.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah, that's going to be a big one because I know that heavy metals are one of the biggest things that are taking down the health of humans, definitely. So I don't see how they aren't taking down the health of your pets as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Caller, did you have another part to your question?
I did. So I heard you say that the food that you're making, which I'm extremely happy about, I'm super excited, by the way, because I'm really kind of tired of looking for what's the right solution out there. And I'd rather go to someone who's proven it over and over again, what is the right solution. Anyway, I have a cat and a dog. I have a small dog and a large cat. And my dog is always trying to eat my cat food, which we won't even talk about what kind it is right this moment. But anyway, he's always trying to eat the cat food, and he's too small to eat that. You said they can eat the same thing, but I'm taking that maybe the amount of vitamins that we would add to the supplements would be different for them, so they would still need to eat separately. Is that what you're saying? And I'm also taking it that I would feed them a certain time and then put it down, let them eat it, and then be done with it. And then can you give me some more ideas of what that looks like, or maybe even the timing, like when you feed animals?
Excellent. Thank you so much. These are fantastic questions. So animals were designed to eat at dawn and dusk. You rarely will see animals hunting in the middle of the day. They're out resting, digesting, sleeping, and so that's their natural pattern. The more we can adapt and model what nature naturally does, the more sustainable and healthier our pets will be. So they're designed to eat at dawn and they're designed to eat at dusk. A little tip for the cats to get them feeling better about their food is do like a game where you have either a fishing pole or a laser light, and you get them to hunt. Simulate that hunting characteristic right before you feed them. They'll actually produce more stomach acid and they'll have better digestion. And dogs as well. If you can play with them before they eat and then you put the food down, they do so much better. And then that fast that they're supposed to have in between is really, really important. They were not designed to be grazers. They were designed to stuff themselves with meat when food was available. And then they didn't eat again until they got hungry. And then sometimes they didn't get food. And on another show, we talked about hormesis. And hormesis is that intermittent stressor that helps to stimulate your mitochondria and the production of antioxidants in the body. So it's really important that intermittently they miss a meal because they were designed to use that to help with energy production and to help with antioxidant production within their body. I am not saying to starve them for 3 to 5 days. I'm saying skip one meal once in a while. So that may look like they eat dinner, but they don't get breakfast or vice versa. And you do that once a week or so. Very important that we do that with our cancer patients, but we're also with our cancer patients, we're giving them all the nutrients that they need. We're supplementing them with aminos and amino acids and with vitamins and minerals. So we give them the pet fuel. Now they have all the nutrients that they actually need to work with. And then we starve the cancer cells by not providing any sugar.
Incredible.
Okay, so let me make sure I answered your question. Yeah. Yes, dogs and cats were designed to eat the same food. They didn't have anything in the wild that said, stop here if you're a dog and stop there if you're a cat. They ate the same food, but because they were eating real food, they had good nutrients in there and they had the amount of taurine that they needed. In our society where the food is processed and you don't know that you even have any meat in it, if a cat were to eat dog food, they may not be getting any taurine, they may not be getting any meat because there's typically not any in that diet, and it's exceedingly high in carbohydrates. Whereas a dog eating a processed food diet from a cat food is likely to be healthier because the cat food diet has been supplemented because they knew that there was going to be deficiencies.
That's very cool. I love that. That's really interesting about the difference between cat and dog food, because now that I've just been sitting here really thinking about it, and yeah, in the wild, they're going to be eating the exact same thing. So that's just, it's all just been marketing and trying to get more products out there and selling different things.
It's how many SKUs can you put on the shelf?
Yeah.
Because the more SKUs, the more people start, and they buy into it because they're thinking about us.
Yeah.
And our little babies do eat differently than our grown-ups. But when my kids were bitty, they're going to kill me for saying this, but I had a friend of mine's dad. He was just a good old country guy, and he said, "Why are you giving them that toxic baby food?" He said, "What we did when we were little is we put food in our mouths, we chewed it up a little bit, and then we took it out and we gave it to our kids." Oh. And I thought, that made a lot of sense. And it might have been kind of gross to think about, but I actually did. And my children had no allergies. They were great eaters. They didn't get sick. Yeah. And it was really neat, actually, because the amylase that I had in my saliva and my chewing up the food, real healthy food, was actually better for them than any kind of bottled, canned, or processed food that we would have bought. So my kids never ate baby food.
Wow, that's really interesting. Good mental note for when I have babies.
I'll be your coach.
Yeah, that's amazing. Coming to you for my fur babies and my babies.
Yeah, I think now you could probably use a food processor. But
yeah, I think that would be okay.
At the time, I didn't have one, so it just worked out, and it was convenient because wherever I was at, if we were in a restaurant, whatever, you had it with you. You have your mouth was your own masticator, right? So I had my own self blender.
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I think I answered the question. Animals, dogs and cats, should be eating twice a day at dawn and dusk. And if they're eating a healthy, sustainable, natural, raw diet, then they can eat the same thing. And then you should make sure that you're supplementing with vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids. And even if they had a diet that claimed it had that in there, I would still supplement with it because you just don't know how much is lost in the whole transition process.
Right. Amazing. And caller,
thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. That answered your questions?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, it did. That was really wonderful. It's amazing all of the things I learned just by listening to the show. I really appreciate it. I know that my dog, who's 9 years old, almost 10, everybody thinks he's a puppy because he has so much energy. And it's just the things I've been learning. I mean, and I've only had him, I think, like 7 or 8 months now. Oh. And so it's a huge difference. Everything I've learned here is making a huge difference to him. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
I want to share another story. If we don't have another caller yet, I want to share another story. And this happened actually yesterday. We had a person was referred into us, and they have an 11-year-old. He was either 11 or 15, something like that, a dog. And he's a little 8-pound dog. And they told me that since he was a puppy, he's had a very bad stomach. He would vomit a lot. He was very sensitive to different foods. He was eating processed foods his whole entire life. And then recently he got a lot worse. He quit eating. He was losing weight. They went to their veterinarian. They did x-rays, ultrasounds. They biopsied the intestinal tract and the stomach. And they came back with a disease called inflammatory bowel disease. Mm-hmm. He didn't have cancer, but he had a really severe disease. And the litany of drugs that this poor dog was on, including steroids and antibiotics, was ridiculous. So they came in yesterday. We had our consultation, and everything that I told them about the stuff that we talk about on how we use a sustainable diet, heal the gut, remove the toxins, detoxify the body, restore the healing process. It all made sense to them. Right. So this was, when they came in, this dog was very depressed, didn't want to engage with anybody, was just shaking and hiding underneath the benches. He really felt miserable. Mm-hmm. So after our workup, I chiropractically adjusted him because he had a lot of arthritis in his back, a lot. And remember, he's never been adjusted before, and he's been eating a tremendously inflammatory diet his whole entire life.
Right.
So I did a chiropractic adjustment. I balanced his chakras. We did some energy work on him. I put him in the Magnosphere, which is our pulse electromagnetic frequency machine that reset his parasympathetic tone. And that's the tone that allows you to rest and digest. So we put him in a parasympathetic state. And I did one other thing. I did the energy work. I did the chiropractic adjustment. We did the Magnosphere, and I can't remember what else I did. When I got done, he acted like a totally different dog.
Wow.
And just on kicks and giggles, I said, let me try to feed him. This dog hasn't eaten in 3 days. I took out a little freeze-dried raw food, and he almost took my fingers off.
Oh my goodness.
This dog ate an ounce and a half of meat, was starving and looking for more. He went home. He's had chronic diarrhea, chronic vomiting for months.
Aww.
He went home after eating an ounce and a half of our food, which I normally wouldn't have fed him that much. But the parents were so excited that he was eating that when I wasn't in the room, they kept feeding him. and it was wonderful to watch this dog have an appetite. He ate like a lion, starving food when it was available. And he never vomited when he went home. He had no diarrhea. They came back today for their second Magnosphere treatment, and they said it was like a miracle. We actually got it on video.
Oh my
they
goodness.
Said, remarkable. He feels better. He's running around. He's engaging. No vomiting, no diarrhea, and it hasn't even been 24 hours.
That's
and then,
so
of course,
amazing.
They started all their supplements, and they're doing the products that we have that help to heal the gut and reduce inflammation, all done naturally. And it is the most rewarding feeling in the world. As they're giving me their history, I was cringing. I'm thinking, oh my God, this poor dog suffered for at least 11 years.
Aww.
And all they had to do was take him off of the stuff that was causing the problem. Right. He was sent home on a prescription diet that has genetically modified corn.
Oh my goodness.
So here you are giving prednisone to stop the immune response. You're putting him on antibiotics to stop the inflammation. And you're feeding him the very thing. Let's pour some kerosene on there and see how well that works.
Yeah, that just is a whirlwind.
It was unbelievable. I won't say the name of the diet, but these are prescription diets from big centers, big box stores, big box veterinary stores. And it's sad because all these poor animals are the ones that are suffering. And if we don't get anything across on this show, it's that we have to start using common sense. We have to stop doing what we saw, what we were taught, what we were told. And we have to look at what we're doing and go, is that the way nature does it? If I were to be in the wild and I didn't have all of the city mecca, what would I do differently? And when we start going back to our roots, we will also go back to healing.
Totally. I agree with that 100%. And thank you so much for that story as well. I feel like a lot of people out there can relate to that because I know a lot of people are feeding their pets just the regular run-of-the-mill kibble food, right? And lots of them are GMO, corn, whatever else it might be. So if we can get that one thing across, that diet is everything. And if you put them on the right diet, they're going to have a much healthier and happier life.
People say to me, but it's too expensive to eat organic, or it's too expensive to feed my pet raw. Let me tell you, when you don't do that, the amount of money that you spend in bro care way exceeds what you will spend in pet food. Not to mention the heartache and the agony and the time that you have to spend in treating and healing these animals. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars people spend. And then if they don't have the ability to spend the money, then they feel so guilty and bad, and they don't get over that. And so it's really not a good path to go down. Take the extra couple of dollars that it takes to feed them right and just do it. And just do it for yourself as well. I found when I changed my family, we saved money because we weren't buying sodas. We weren't buying the fruit juices that were nasty. We weren't buying the potato chips and all the junk food. And we were eating legitimately food that actually nourished our bodies.
Exactly.
And when you're eating nutrient-dense foods, you're not as hungry.
Exactly. People are just piling up all these processed foods or all these things that they think have nutrients in them, and that's why they're never getting full, they're never getting nourished, and they're getting chronic fatigue, and then they're getting all these other things that just keeps piling up. And once you eliminate that, people say that to me all the time. They're like, how do you eat organic? It's like way too expensive. It's they say they can't do it, and I'm like, I spent way more money on food and other things before I switched. I save way more money now that I'm on a healthy organic plant-based diet. It's completely transformed my health and my bank account.
Yeah. And they feel better and they're happier.
Yeah.
Well, I want to touch a little bit about on the probiotic side of it, because that really rounds out the diet. And then I think we have a slide that demonstrates, because a lot of times we don't really appreciate the changes that are happening in our body or our pet's body, because you can't see it on a cellular level.
Right.
You may feel better, but you go, oh, was it because I just slept better? Or, you can blow it off to something else. But in a minute, we'll show a slide that actually demonstrates what happens when you put nutrients into the body.
Perfect.
But before we do that, let's talk about the probiotics, because we've talked about the meat, the fat, the bone, and the organ meat.
Mm-hmm.
So when people don't go just buying chicken breasts and thinking you can feed raw chicken breast, that is not sustainable, that is not balanced, not, no bueno.
Right.
Okay. So you have the meat portion of the diet, you have the vitamin, mineral, fatty acid portion of the diet, and then you have to have something that replenishes those bacteria. Remember, in the wild, they would eat through the intestinal tract. So they kill an animal, they degut it, and as they degut it, they're tearing through the intestines and they're getting that effluent. So they're getting that self-inoculation of the good bacteria.
Right.
Well, when we're feeding either processed foods or even a raw food, there's no probiotics in there. There's no bacteria. So we have to supplement that. And I was recently doing, I think 2 weeks ago, we did an interview with Dr. Zach Bush. He's so brilliant and he's so amazing to be around. And we'll be talking more about the products that he's developed for people and animals that help to restore gut health. But one of the things that he and I passionately agree is that taking commercial probiotics may not be in the best interest of the individual.
Right.
And I think it's because when you're taking these probiotics, you're taking 3 to 5, maybe 10 strains of bacteria. But our guts are made up of trillions of bacteria, and there's a wide variety of species. So when you all of a sudden narrow that colony down to just a few species, and they start to become the predominant species, you no longer have a normal microflora. You no longer have a normal environment where everybody has a job and there's balance.
Right.
Now you have a big skew into one direction or another. And even though they're good bacteria, they're not the only ones that are supposed to be living there. So I'm a proponent of fermented foods. Right. These come from nature. These are produced through natural fermentation processes. And when you eat those kind of products, you are then supplementing your body with those good bacteria that your body needs to have. So I'm a proponent of using probiotics that are fermented. We love milk kefir, and we make a product that is absolutely amazing, and it's fermented and it's fresh, and that's what we encourage our pet parents to use. Okay. So that covers the spectrum of what we need to have. I just saw my battery sign. Can you talk about something? Do an announcement while I go get my charger?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, be right back, guys.
Sounds good. So that's on milk kefir. So that's what Dr. Marlene Siegel suggests for your pets, is using a probiotic-rich kefir. For humans, we would recommend doing a coconut one. I'll just mention that. So don't try to get any dairy in on the human end of things. But I will just touch on our next episode of PetStar will be on November 28th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with Dr. Marlene Siegel, where we'll be talking about epigenetics and the role they play in pets' lives. So that's going to be the next episode we are having for PetStar. And we are going to be showing her slide here right away, where she's going to be showing the effects that everything has on the cells. So we will get to that shortly here. The next episode for Hope for Cancer is going to be tomorrow, Thursday, November 15th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Dr. Tony Jimenez and myself will be talking about how to restore the health of your lymphatic system. And for the full Doc of Detox show schedule, you can go to docofdetoxshow.com to see the rest of our schedule for the year. And then we will be creating a whole new schedule for the new year, and I can't wait for that. So stay tuned for what's to come.
I'm back.
Perfect timing. I just finished the announcements.
Wow. I didn't think my battery would go that fast, so I apologize.
All
I
good.
thought I was going to have plenty. I was 100% charged when I came in. Okay, so we talked about the probiotics.
Yes.
And now if we can get Omi to put our slide up, I want to explain how we can actually see what's going on. To see is live blood analysis.
Okay.
And a live blood analysis is where we take a drop of blood and we put it on a microscope slide and we analyze it. There's no stains. We don't dry it. This is done on a fresh drop of blood. The difference between live blood analysis and blood chemistries that we do is that in the blood chemistries, we're measuring enzymes that are being released from cells of different organs. So your liver has a certain enzyme that lives in liver cells. And when the liver cell breaks open and releases that enzyme, it's measurable in the blood. So if it's very high, it means there's a lot of liver cells that have been injured and releasing a lot of enzymes. And if it's low, it means that that organ is getting sluggish and not having good metabolism. And so it's almost doing nothing.
Right.
In live blood analysis, we're actually looking at the morphology of the cells. So we're looking at red cells, we're looking at white blood cells, we're looking at the different other things that would live in there, such as bacteria, such as fat, such as yeast overgrowth. And all of that gives us information as to how this animal is doing in the oxidative stress that the body is under.
Right.
So the stickier the cells are and the more they clump together, the more oxidative stress.
Right.
So we metabolize from the surface area of the cell. Imagine a red blood cell looks like a tennis ball. And it uses its surface area to bring in oxygen through the, when the red blood cell travels through the lung, it picks up oxygen through the surface area of the cell, delivers that oxygen to the tissue, then it picks up the waste products from the cell's from the tissue metabolism, and it delivers that out the organs of elimination.
Right.
If most of your cells are clumped together or sticky, then you're covering the surface area and you can't have proper metabolism, you can't have proper oxygenation and elimination.
Right.
I still don't see it.
It came up and then I think it came back down. Let's just get that up. Oh, it might be because it's not coming up in the Google Hangout. That would be why.
That might be why.
Yeah, so it's coming up on the live stream. If you can pull that up, you'll be able to see it. If you put in your browser, docofdetoxshow.com/live, you'll be able to see the live stream and then you can see the picture.
I don't see it, so I'm just going to pretend.
Okay, okay.
I know the slide, so
Yeah.
at
The top, yeah.
This is a cat that had been eating processed foods his whole life. Cat was over 10 years of age and came in just not really feeling that great. And we did the live blood and we saw that the cells were all sticky and clumped together. Because the cat was not in any life-threatening situation, I asked the owners if we could do an experiment and just add our pet fuel to the diet and then come back in 72 hours and see if it made a difference.
Wow.
So they just added a little pet fuel to the top of the cat's regular processed foods. We did not change the food.
Okay.
And he came back in 3 days and we repeated the blood. And for those who have the ability to see it, you can see that the blood is totally separated. All the red cells are plumped up and looking beautiful.
Yeah.
And the owners actually reported that cat felt so much better.
Wow.
And that was in 3 days. Now, I wouldn't say that it would be the best thing to continue feeding processed foods and just adding pet fuel. That'd be like taking and eating really good vitamins and minerals and still eating junk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the best, but it certainly shows that you can make a tremendous improvement to the nutritional value and to the body's metabolism by at least adding the pet fuel.
Definitely.
And then if you can substitute some processed foods, reduce it a little bit and add some fresh living food as much as you can possibly afford, that's better than nothing. And of course, everything being organic.
Right. Definitely. No, it's amazing. I love seeing different live blood analysis, and that's really cool seeing it on a pet, because with humans, I know being in front of a computer even or doing certain diets, you're going to see major rouleau with their blood analysis. So it's very cool to see the difference within that short period of time.
Yeah. And that was one case, but we repeated that multiple times. It was interesting because as I was trying to find animals that were eating processed foods that were not critically ill, that I had the luxury of time to say, oh, well, let's just do this experiment for 3 or 4 days. I found I was very challenged to find enough cases, but we got about a half a dozen, and we saw the exact same results on every single one of them.
Wow.
We didn't change anything but add the pet fuel. And then, of course, after that, they got onto a raw diet.
Perfect.
And these animals did remarkably well.
Wonderful. No, that's really great to see. And so when switching to the raw diet, how much more does the blood transform? Are you going to be doing more studies with that to see?
Well, I think once you get the cell separation, you're not going to see a lot of difference maybe in the cells, but you will see cell chemistry change. You will see the animal's behavior change. When we do look at inflammatory markers, we can see inflammatory markers go down.
Okay.
It's very exciting because the main thing is we see it in the clinical presentation.
Yeah.
You can see the coats get brighter and they are shinier, and the animals start acting like puppies again. We have a tendency to make excuses in our society and say, oh, well, we're getting old. So they expect, we're conditioned to believe that when we get old, we're going to be old and crickety and we're not going to think much, and we're going to have aches and pains. Not my world. No. I'm in my 60s, and I know Dr. Wolf is in his 60s, and none of us believe that. No. We are healthier and more thriving, and we have more energy, and I love my life. I can't imagine having to live a life where you're just not able to thrive and not able to function at a highest level.
Yeah.
So
I can even say for myself, I'm 30 and I feel better than I did at 15 and when I was in my 20s. So
absolutely,
it's amazing what changing your diet can really do, and changing the attitude.
The body is a machine. All right. When we realize that it is a machine, if you want a machine to last the longest, do you follow the manufacturer's recommendations? Or do you go off on your own tangent and say, oh, let me try something new? I don't think that people that put sand or water or air in their gas tank go very far.
No.
Because that machine can't adapt. So your car just quits working. Totally. And then what do? You go get a new one.
Yeah.
But in our bodies, we don't have a mulligan. You don't get to go out there and get the new model.
No.
That's it. You better be taking care of it.
It's your temple.
Which means don't take advantage of the fact that your body will adapt and try to survive and then push it to the limit.
Exactly.
Take care of it. Give it the nutrients that it needs. Nourish it. Support it. And it supports us. And for our pets, it's even more important because they rely on us. They have no choice. They're in our house. They're stuck on the end of a leash. Yeah. They can't go out there and hunt on their own. Some of our cats, maybe they go out there and they get some little mice and some lizards. But for the most part, our pets are not able to fend for themselves. They can't make choices. So they really do rely on us to make good decisions. And we have to start getting our heads out of the clouds and start really paying attention and going, does this make sense? And it certainly doesn't make sense to me that we live in a world where the cancer rates in dogs are 1 out of 1.65. Wow. Oh my goodness.
That's crazy. So
Cats
crazy.
are 1 out of 3. Human males are 1 out of 2.
Yeah.
Females are 1 out of 3. That is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And we're destroying our earth.
Yeah.
When you listen to Dr. Zach Bush talk, he's really powerful. And he said, in our interview, he said we could be seeing the extinction of our entire population
it's really
in under 100 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking calculated out. He said it's 70 years. If we
Mhm.
don't make massive changes quickly, and we continue doing the things that we're doing, we will see the extinction of our species. And that's because not only are we harming our bodies to where we can't take up nutrients, but we're also destroying the earth. We're destroying the microbiome of the earth.
Yeah.
And when you destroy that, you can't produce food.
Exactly.
Just take bees alone,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we lose the bees in this world, they pollinate over 70% of our food source.
Yeah.
No, you won't have that unless you want to go out and tickle it with the feather, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I grow my own food. I cannot see myself going through a third of an acre self-pollinating everything.
No.
I feed my bees. I love my bees.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for touching on that, because that is such an important thing, and taking care of our Mother Earth is just the number one thing that we need to take care of. She takes care of us. She doesn't need us. We need her. So
absolutely,
let's take care of her the best that we can. We all need to band together. We all need to unite and really take care of Mother Earth, take care of ourselves, and take care of our pets, because we're all in an ecosystem together, and we need to make it the healthiest, happiest place for everybody to live.
And everybody has a responsibility to make that happen.
Yeah.
There's not one person on this earth that doesn't have that responsibility. And it starts with how you spend your dollars.
Yes.
So if you are buying toxic cleaning products, if you are buying toxic food, if you are using these products and putting them into the environment, even throwing away cans that have bad nasties in them, you're still contributing that into our environment, and that's unacceptable.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And on that note, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners out there?
Not sure why this is doing this, but I had a phone call coming in, and
good.
I had turned my phone off. It was on buzzer. It still did that.
No worries.
So final thoughts. Well, I would say my final thoughts have to do with taking responsibility. I think we have to take responsibility for our own personal actions. And I would ask people to start by picking one thing from column A and one thing from column B. Well, what are column A and column B? Column A are all the things that you should be doing and you're not. Make a list, and then every week pick one thing off that list and add it to the things that you're doing that you haven't been doing before. In column B are the things that you shouldn't be doing and you still are. Stop it. Pick one thing and don't do it anymore. And it may be something like I'm not drinking healthy, clean, structured water.
I was just going to say that one. That's so funny that you said it. That was in my head.
And so maybe instead you go out and you buy a water machine, like either what you guys support, or I like the Echo water machine. Whatever it is that you use, a good structured water, and you quit using plastic bottles.
Right.
Period. There's no reason to use plastic bottles. You can get glass jars, you can reuse glass jars, and you put your healthy water in it, and you're done.
Yeah, I just got this awesome one at the Tampa airport. I love it. It's Corksicle, and it's sparkly white, and it looks like a unicorn. It's perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So there's so many different, and it's 25 ounces. So you just know you have to have 5 a day to stay hydrated.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. And that's a beautiful thing. I'm actually going to go home and I'm going to put in my journal column A, column B, because we all need to improve and continue becoming the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us here today. It's such an honor always speaking with you. And I can't wait to continue doing our shows together and to finally meet you in person in June.
And I'm going to let you work on my body and break down all that scar tissue.
Definitely. I got you covered. Can't wait to work with you.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with Dr. Tony Jimenez for how to restore your lymphatic system. And you guys all have a beautiful evening. Thank you so much.